and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item is the review and approval of the consent items. We have the November 25th, 2019 meeting minutes. We have the account payable manifest of December 3rd, 2019 in the sum of $56,402.81, and December 10th, 2019 in the sum of $152,144.09. We have a payroll manifest of December 5th, 2019 in the sum of $87,631.98, and December 12th of 2019 in the sum of $66,536.36. We also have 3 land use change taxes. Are there any items members would like to remove from consent? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair, to approve the items of consent.
Motion by Mr. Lemire.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lynch. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstained?
I'll abstain.
Motion carries
Ooh.
4-0-1.
Mr. Chair, I should abstain from the November 25th minutes. I was
Okay.
not present.
Okay.
If I could be marked as abstaining just from that, I don't know if we could do that, but
We can. So
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
motion by Mr. Lynch,
Second.
second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 3-0-2.
We still got to put our hands up?
we probably should.
Okay, just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
Is there any other business members would like added this evening? Hearing none. Public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 PM this evening. First item of business, Joshua Smith, NRPC Commissioner, term expiring March 31st, 2021. Mr. Brown.
So the chairman, Mr. Chairman, the planning board chair and the planning board has voted to support Joshua Smith's appointment to the National Regional Planning Commission as a board member. So we have a seat on the commission. We haven't had it filled for a couple of years. Unfortunately, Joshua Smith was not able to be here this evening, so I'll continue to coordinate with him and hopefully have him here at the next meeting or first of the year.
Okay.
But I know that, the board would want to interview him first before making that appointment. So,
Okay.
Thank you. Next item is the acceptance of unanticipated funds for Town Hall, $3,000. Mr. Brown.
yeah, this is great news. The Litchfield Pickleball Association has donated $3,000. They've donated this to the Rec Commission, no strings attached. However, they'd like to have the funds, the Rec Commission would like to have the funds dedicated towards some type of improvements to Town Hall, since this is the facility that the Pickleball Association uses on a daily basis, pretty much, through the winter months. So I know there's several things that the Rec Commission is looking at. One, we've heard a lot of comments about some improvements to the floor, working on heating system, and there's some other items that need to be addressed in the building. So the back entryway. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. We're the only ones that can accept them, right?
Yes.
And now, do we have to make the decision as to how it's used, or can we allow the Rec Commission to do that?
Well, we can allow, as long as what we're doing is accepting the funds and with the condition that it be used for improvements at Town Hall
Perfect.
at the discretion of the.
And we did the same thing last year, I believe, when they.
That'll leave the Rec Commission the ability to spend it how they wish,
Mhm.
but it's definitely tied to improvements at Town Hall.
Yeah, it was very generous of them to give that to us.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept unanticipated funds in the amount of $3,000 from the Litchfield Pickleball Association to be used for Talent Hall building improvements at the discretion of the Recreation Commission.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion?
I just want to make it clear that it's for the building maintenance, okay, to maintain the floors, whatever needs to be done. Okay? Because that's the problem.
Well, based on the motion, it's for the Talent Hall building improvements. So it'd be any improvement to the building itself.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0. The next item is the Pat Jewett Volunteer Appreciation Award. Mr. Brown.
Okay, Laura Gandia, who always is out front, getting this program started. She came to my office last week and asked me that we would begin, the formal announcement that the town is accepting applications for the 2020 Pat Jewett Volunteer Appreciation Award. Mr. Burnell, our IT director, has posted this on our website. It's gone out on social media today. So the deadline for nominations is February 7th, 2020. And we'll, at the next meeting, we'll talk about when we want to hold that ceremony. So Mrs. Jewett's birthday is March 1st, and we like to try to hold the ceremony as close as we can to her birthday.
So no action needed for us
No.
at this time. The next will be the PSNH Eversource Property Tax Settlement Agreement. Mr. Brown.
The board may recall that this tax abatement appeal has been pending for several years. We recently had a settlement agreement that our attorneys had negotiated as well as other communities. So this agreement would address the 2015 tax appeal. It is in the amount of $46,905. We were aware of this when we set the overlay, when we set the tax rate in 2019. So there's funds available to make this payment before we close the fiscal year out.
Any questions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I motion to approve the settlement agreement with Public Service Company of New Hampshire in regards to the disputed tax year of 2015 in the amount of $46,905 to be paid from the 2019 overlay amount.
We have a motion by Mr. Schaefer,
Second.
second by Mr. Lemire. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0-0. The next will be the 2019 budget projections. Mr. Brown.
I'm getting a document now.
Troy, I have a thing. We're sorry this document
Yeah,
is
me
not
too.
published.
Give us access, please.
Do I have to?
Karen, you're playing hardball?
Aaron's gonna let us know.
The,
Because I can get into it, maybe.
it should be. Right now I have it as public on the web.
Let me try it.
Let's refresh.
Nope, still.
What did we do?
No.
Hold on. Public on the web. So. I got all the selectmen's names are showing. I was in the wrong. Hold on one sec.
Jeopardy theme music here.
Yeah, I got some. It's, all right, hold on.
Operator hour.
No, it was not shared. Give it a second here. You might have to hit that refresh button. A little
Yep, just came up.
backwards
They're
there.
in projections.
There we go.
Where's the refresh button?
All right,
You got
we're
it?
in.
Maybe it refreshes itself.
I still have it as documents not published.
You hit that.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Came up?
Nope.
I've got it too.
That's reverse.
Let's refresh.
Reverse.
Kevin's.
I got it now.
You got it? Sorry about that.
You have to hit the right button, right, Kurt?
Reverse. Hit it again.
Yeah, I hit reverse. There's a forward and reverse on the computer.
Kevin
didn't you
still
know?
isn't working.
What did I say? Or do?
You guys want to share?
So
Where do we start?
So Karen and I were, the best thing is right on the summary page.
Yeah, see, it's all written.
We went through the operating budget today. This represents today's payroll, last week's AP. We have 4 more weeks of payroll left. So we're getting down, the last few weeks of the fiscal year. Pretty comfortable kind of knowing the trends of where we're going to end up. The only real wild card here will be the highway department. We didn't get all the costs in from the last storm and still don't know what the future has in store for us until the end of the year. So we're very conservative on our estimates. Right now, we're looking at an unexpended balance of $128,000. And that sounds like a large number, but there's a couple numbers that we typically know that we don't spend, like assessing. We're always using last year's encumbrance because we have part of our formula in preparing for the financial impact of the 5-year update. We encumber last year's funds and spend those and then encumber the current year funds. So if we've done it right and as proposed in the 2020 budget, we try to level off that cost of the update in 2020. But the Board of Selectmen, I'll go through some of the highlights of the overages at this point in time, and then we'll go back and go over what we think there's going to be a turn back. And these are the highlights. These are large, the larger numbers. Board of Selectmen, we have an overage of $11,787. Primarily that is due to the health insurance costs that we covered for that library employee. If you recall having that discussion that we would cover any of the unbudgeted costs.
Yes.
So there was no budget really to charge that to. We charged it to the Board of Selectmen health insurance line, which was only budgeted for my health insurance. So that's why you see that the overage there.
Why wouldn't it go against the library's budget?
Because the agreement that the Board of Selectmen had with the library was we would cover any unfunded cost associated with health insurance. And the reason that the board, I wasn't here at the time, but the reason the board made that agreement with the library, it was so the library wouldn't carry a large contingency in their operating budget. So at the time, the selectmen felt, you know what, if you had some type of open enrollment issue that came up, we'll try to cover it in our operating budget. We were going to meet with the library trustees and talk about it because they've changed some things in their personnel policy where there are certain, employees now are eligible for health insurance, where at the time the board made that agreement, they weren't.
Mhm.
So due to whatever scheduling, we were never able to have that meeting with them. But I just wanted to point that out. That's what was driving that cost. The next large overage is personnel administration, $10,925. A lot of that's actually driven by the payroll costs associated with New Hampshire state retirement for both, our union contracts and our non-union employees. And some of that is actually covered in the allotment that we have, the $15,000 allotment that we give for our performance-based wages. The other part of it is we had a special warrant article for the union contract. And so those funds were raised to cover those costs. But because it was a special warrant article, it's not actually in the operating budget. It's listed elsewhere in our budget reports because it's a special warrant article.
Where's elsewhere?
It would be if you had your, the printout that Heather sends out every week. If you follow it, at the bottom it talks about the general fund or the operating budget, and then it will start to go into warrant articles. List the warrant articles of 2019.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. General government buildings are $5,700 overage. Cemeteries.
Yeah.
5,704. The cemetery trustees had a year this year where one, we didn't have we didn't have them the year prior either, but the elimination of that community service program through the local county prison program.
Right.
And it looks like the contract that they have with the mowing and lawn, care, it's more on a cost per cut basis, I think, because it's not a fixed cost contract. And so it's kind of really hard to budget what the actual cost will be for maintenance. So that was some of the drivers there.
Yeah, that is right on that. That's
Is it?
per cut,
And the next overage we are looking at right now, and this number may get larger, road maintenance, $6,277. This is, based on what we know right now. Things could change and we could come in right at budget, but I think for the first time in a long time, we're actually going to exceed the bottom line.
Speaking to the road agent the other day, he said we chewed up a lot of salt.
He did a lot of salt. We've had to order salt, and we've got more salt on way. We had some breakdowns during the storm event, and we had significant hours of work. I mean, I know just the road agent and his staff, they turned their payroll in this week, and they had 45 hours of overtime. So on top of the 40 hours straight time, they had another 45 hours.
I know
of
the road
overtime.
agent said he put 85 hours in, so he was out there.
I haven't seen the contractors' submittals. I haven't seen yet, but I suspect they're going to be significant. So, animal control.
Now, the budget committee cut the salt budget. Or should we approach
They
them
did,
about putting
and
that back in?
There,
Are we going to be hurting?
well, we start January 1. We'll start over with a
Okay.
brand new budget.
Okay.
And we always have one of the things we do have. We have a capital reserve fund
Mhm.
that does or is established to help with overages like this, salt and some. I don't know if it's equipment. We have an equipment breakdown, but things like salt and the labor to cover the
Okay.
cost of snow
Okay.
removal. So if our contractor line went over, we could actually tap into that capital reserve too.
Well, and also deliberative session, we can amend it.
And you could,
You know, if we have a-
if
If we have a tough January,
if we're starting to see a trend where we really are going to be in trouble, then we have
we're going to
time
have
to
to
deliberative
amend
session
it.
to try to.
Yep.
Animal control over 13,535, and this is directly related to the fact that we lost our heating system. So we've charged the cost to replace the system, and we got hit with high electric costs because we heated the building last year with electric. So those two factors driving the cost there. And then we'll go back, and whereas the items where we're turning in large amounts of unspent funds. Revaluation of property is the first one, 46,325. And that's not a surprise. That is actually part of our financial plan each year. As I said, planning for the 5-year update. So those funds we'll talk about later this evening. We'll be asking to actually encumber $50,000 from that line item. And that matches our proposal in the 2020 budget. We show that we're using $50,000 in encumbrances with the added money that we propose raising to cover the cost.
For reevaluation.
For revaluation
Okay.
2020, it's I think it's a $90,000 cost to do the townwide update next
Oh,
year.
okay. Yeah.
Legal expenses, right now, it looks like $34,000 turn back. We still have 2 months of legal bills, that we haven't processed. But a large amount of this is due to the fact of the St. Cobain, the special funds we have set aside for St. Cobain. And we just haven't we've had a couple meetings with our legal staff, but we haven't had, there's still work to be done. There's still more issues that are coming up now that we're aware of. And, but at this point in time, it doesn't look like we'll be spending all of those funds this year. Police administration, 22,620. Probably primarily just due to the fact that we had an officer that was out on military leave, and some other minor issues that would see a turn back, but that number could shrink between now and in January. We have storms and you have vacations and you have the holidays. So
I learned this
That could
weekend that his
decrease.
leave got extended.
did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think either October or November now.
Okay. And fire hydrants, it looks like we may have a turn back of 9,800. And, again, we're trying to budget this 18 months ago. So pretty close, but based on the monthly bills we're receiving, it looks like a turn back of 9,800. And that's the difference of, some other minor line items of over and under. It looks like about $128,000 turn back. That could shrink. It could grow. I'll give you another we'll take a look at it again next week, and just let you know. But it was important to go through that process because as we talk about encumbrances this evening, you need to kind of know where I think we're going to end up.
Okay, so it's great. We can talk about that next week. Any questions? Seeing that it's 6:51, we'll open it to public input. Since there are no members of the public here this evening, we will close public input. The next item on the agenda is the 2019 encumbrances. Mr. Brown.
Shared?
Yes,
You can see it?
it's good
That's good.
for me.
Me too.
Let's start off actually at the bottom of this spreadsheet, 2019 re-encumbrances.
I don't have it. Oh,
No.
We're starting backwards.
As well.
The green.
Yes.
Nope.
Go ahead.
All right.
Need help up?
2019 re-encumbrances. So these are funds that we encumbered last year, but for various reasons, we were not able to expend the funds. So I'll go through them. Our request, no action this evening. Again, you'll need to take action on these next Monday night, but I wanted to present them to you this evening. The fire department software contract to bridge the Hudson and Litchfield fire departments, that's been put on hold between John Burnell and the fire chief. With everything going on with the communication equipment and the construction of the new building, they just held off on this. They didn't want to spend money and then kind of waste it. So at this point in time, they're asking that we continue to re-encumber those funds, and they'll look into using them in 2020. The rec department they have $459.15 left for the river access project, and they are looking to expend all those funds. I think right now they're looking at a couple other, like a bench or a couple other smaller cost items for the river access park. The police department, speed and traffic enforcement equipment. This was going to be for a speed radar type trailer, and they were very, very hopeful that they could use these funds to acquire that piece of equipment, which they really need, but leverage state grant funds. And if they were able to do that, then they were going to also get a plate reader, I guess, for lack of a better term, mounted on one of their vehicles. So when they pass a vehicle, it would electronically scan the plate and actually give them information about that vehicle if there's any outstanding issues, legal issues with that vehicle or the person that's registered to. The grant funds did not become available this year, but they've been promised that the funds should open up next year, and they didn't. If you spend the funds without prior approval, you eliminate your opportunity to get reimbursed grant funds, and that's a 50-50 reimbursement. So we're looking to re-encumber those funds. General government building, this is mine. I own this. I encumbered $5,000 last year in hopes of updating the furniture and my office and the staff and the selectmen side, as well. If there was some funding left, some chairs in the small conference room. We just simply didn't have time to really meet with the different vendors and get some good quality pricing. So we'd like to have those funds continue to be re-encumbered. And under information technology, miscellaneous IT equipment, Mr. Brunel, it's quite possible Mr. Brunel is going to spend all this money before year end. But if he's not able to, then he would obviously like to see it continue to be encumbered for next year. So those were funds that were encumbered from 2018 budget. There were other funds which we've closed out. They've been expended 100%. These are remaining funds that we'd like to see re-encumbered. Then if you go to the top, new encumbrances would be coming from the 2019 budget. And these are items that, I've received feedback from some boards and committees and departments. So the first one is cemetery trustees. They would like to encumber $5,000 for tree work. And this would be, it kind of started off with some minor work at like Pinecrest and Hillcrest Cemetery. And then there's an old cemetery down at the muster site, and there's some trees down there where they're trying to clear it and get it open to the public. So at this point in time, they've asked if we could just do a $5,000 encumbrance, and they would do their best with all the sites to do the tree work that they can.
And this ties into the Conservation Committee discussion that we had, right, from the other evening?
It did, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. General government building maintenance, the town clerk is her countertops in there. There's a couple of things going on. The trim work has fallen apart, and they're catching their clothing, and it's actually kind of a safety hazard. And then on top of that, all the grummets, this was original workstations. And through the time, the printers and computers, everything's changed, and all these grummet holes are everywhere, and they're not able to place their equipment in their computers, and they got stuff falling through the holes. And so we're looking at upgrading the whole countertop so that we can adapt it to the current equipment and workload that they have. And she actually received a quote to do that. It's a very good quote. They're redoing the brackets and the whole countertop, the backsplash, everything. So it would be a replacement in kind, but all new equipment, all new material. And that's going to be $6,000. The IT equipment purchase for door security, phase 2, is what Mr. Brunel is talking about. He had it in the proposed 2020 budget. We pulled it out in hopes that we'd be able to have funds remaining at the end of the year. So this would, again, finish up his door security for both the police station and the town office side. And the assessing revaluation for the 2020 update, $50,000, which we talked about. And the last item, I actually I've been discussing with our HVAC company about our heating and cooling equipment here at the town office. And one of the things that they informed me, I knew that our systems, it's the original equipment. So it's at the point where it's the old refrigerant. So one, you can't always just buy something new and replace it. There's some work involved. Two, it's at the end of its lifespan. So I know that even Kevin, they were talking to Kevin about, we better start planning on updating this equipment. So I asked them recently to put together a proposal, and it came back at about $80,000 to replace everything. Now, one of the great things I learned about, and I didn't know we could do this, every one of the heating and cooling units are actually separate standalone systems.
Correct.
So we can actually replace 1 unit, 2 unit, 3, whatever we can afford to do, and actually start trying to make some progress here. So that's where I just saw where our projections right now, and not knowing where things are going to end up. I put $50,000 in there for now. That would actually put us over our, projected budget. But at this point, as we get closer to year end, I'd like to keep the $50,000 there and see where we end up. Because the motion I asked you folks to make would be contingent upon available funds. So some of these items, if we don't have the funds, we learn in February that they're not available, we'd have to reduce the encumbrance, eliminate some encumbrances and reduce the amounts.
Okay.
But that would be a big step forward in eliminating that major capital project here in this building.
You get the majority of it done. I mean, it was easy to do
Get a
everything.
lot of it done.
There's 6 units in this building. There's 3 down that at that end. There's 2 here. There's a separate one in the Sallyport. They are very old. They were the originals. They started to break down 3 or 4 years ago. We did some Band-Aid work, and we've already placed, I think, 3 condensers on the outside for the air conditioner because they let go. These are due. Okay, I'm not. I know something about the building.
You know,
Okay, I spent a lot of time up loving them.
and it's one of those things where I've said, we got caught
These are
down
the-
there at town hall, but this here in your police department and town hall, when something goes down, now you're scrambling to replace and
Yep.
no planning, no. Now you're there's no. It's whatever the price is that day to fix it real quick. So
The other thing you got to think about is getting the units up there, and that's why the big eyes are on the end. You can take that out and put it inside without going through the building.
yeah,
That's half the battle here, because these units could be brought up through the pull downstairs, or we go through the side.
Yep.
Okay, just let you know.
so no action this evening. I
Okay.
wanted to break the ice, let you guys kind of know what we're thinking about. And then, every now, I might get some more feedback from department heads. But
Thank you.
I will be asking for a vote at your next meeting.
Thank
So if
you.
you have any questions, concerns, reach out to me before next Monday.
The next item is the 2020 draft warrant articles. Mr. Brown.
Default, okay. All right, we won't, the operating budget, I've placed in there as of right now, the number that the budget committee has approved. That's not final yet. That's just a placeholder at this point in time. They still have public hearings to go through but it's $7,067,631. Our default budget, which we just, went through today, I'll go through it with you next. At this point, it's looking like it will be $7,050,661. So for the first time, we're real close,
We had Delta about
very
17,000.
close. We haven't been that close in a while. So I still want the next 4 days to go through it one more time, make sure we've got all the formulas adding up right and everything looks good.
That's too close.
It
Really close.
it makes me nervous. We've not been that close, but the budget committee did do a very thorough job, and they went through and found a lot of areas of adjustments. So we'll see. The full-time highway employee, $35,964. The tax impact of 4 cents.
Mhm.
And that would be a full-time employee starting July 1st,
Are we going to vote on these next meeting?
Next meeting.
Okay,
next meeting. Yeah.
all right, good.
Public safety communication system lease purchase. I updated these numbers. The number now was 750,000. The last time you saw it, based on Mr. Brunel's update, we've done the recalculation of the financing at 700,000. So that's brought it down to 5-year payments of $147,474 a year. This is unfortunately, this is a big
Thank you.
tax impact. This is 16 cents.
But it's truly needed.
If we spread it out longer than 5 years, would that bring it down in the amount? Because it's supposed to be good for 20 years, right?
Yeah, so it would bring it down. Anytime we go closer to 100,000, or say, it's going to bring it down. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's, I know.
I got a question. If you did spread it out, Could you give us an example, let's say what a 10-year one would be?
Yeah, I use my leasing company, but if
Yeah,
that's important, if you guys want to have that next Monday night, just so you can see.
I'm just looking to, so Bob asked the question, I'm thinking the same thing. This is a big number, okay? I'm just trying to figure out how it may work to make it simple all the way across.
Yep.
Okay?
I will,
Go,
it's easy to get the numbers.
15.
The leasing company does this for me.
Yep.
And I think it's worth taking a look at the 5-year, the 8-year, and the 10-year.
Mhm.
See what the numbers are. See what you guys want to do.
And good work by John and yourself on this, bringing, and the numbers have come down significantly since it started. So,
Right, Bob, it was
Yeah.
900,000 or something?
yeah, it was way up there, yeah.
Yeah, I was having some nips
You
connection.
guys really did the
Yeah.
town good here.
And I know, I just wanted to point out too, because John has been mentioning, he wanted it to be an amount not to exceed, but I don't recommend that you word warrant articles that way, because if for any reason you needed to spend $705,000, you can't spend the $5,000. Even if you found the money somewhere else, you cannot do that.
One less radio.
So it's best to just ask for the money and don't reference anything not to exceed.
Based on everything he got in from the contract, is this 700,000 is a guaranteed maximum
Yeah,
price?
and
is what they're saying.
I think there's still room there for, him, is like he said, site conditions are a tough thing to really put a dollar sign on.
Yeah, especially you don't know if the tower's going to go
The
in the
tower,
school,
ledge,
and where
this,
the school
yeah.
it's going to go.
Yep.
It's not going to go on the tank.
Is that a what?
It's not going to be mounted to the side of the tank. If it did get up there,
I don't,
it's rock up there. That's why it's called Rocky.
I'm assuming it's going to be mounted.
To the side.
Yeah.
Anything down below, it's
Right.
all sand.
And at the school, I'm thinking,
It's all sand.
so it should be good.
Okay.
Library earn time, $5,000 to their earn time expendable trust fund as a 1 cent tax impact. And I'm still doing a little bit of research on, every year this article's ever come up, the Board of Selectmen's always provided a recommendation and not the library trustees. So I'll definitely have that nailed down for you Monday night. Okay. Human Services and Health Agencies, still holding that at $25,000 at this point in time. That's the one thing that between now and your next meeting, I'm not so sure if I'm going to have that number for you. But we will have it before we get into, deliberative session or hopefully at the public hearing, it's going to be on the budget. So we'll definitely have that number for the deliberative hearing session.
When do we have to have the warrant articles approved by?
So we typically will sign them sometime in early January.
So we still have some time.
We've got some
after
time.
This one if we
Yeah,
need
and
to.
basically just getting the committee back together and going through the 2020 requests.
If that's, excuse me, Mr. Chair, if we could have Troy also send us a agenda when the deliberative session is going to be
Yep.
and when the budget hearings will need to be, at least send that so we can make sure we can plan ourselves to be here for that wonderful event. Because we jump ahead and I don't know the exact dates.
Okay.
Thank you.
The General Assistance Expendable Trust Fund, we're proposing to raise $10,000. It has a 1 cent tax impact. This would make the selectmen agents to expend. You've heard about this, you know about it. This would hopefully create this expendable trust fund, and we would take money, it would eliminate raising money every year in the operating budget. Darapon milfoil treatment. I received correspondence today, nothing formal, but based on their testing of the water and their being out there in the boat and doing some site observations, they're looking at a 3-year treatment cost of $35,000. So the first year is about, I don't want to say it, but it's over $10,000, and there's some additional, I think, $3,000 for some.
So this covers the 3 years,
It's a
35,000.
3-year thing, and it's
Okay.
it's being a little conservative. It's possible it may cost $30,000, But
there
there's just,
grant money for this too?
well, there's a
I
possibility.
thought that
You
there
know,
was a
there's-
milfoil account from the state
There's a possibility.
that
So
we can
Yeah.
tap. I think,
I know that there's some state programs out there.
Right.
So if you get the funding, is a possibility you could leverage some assistance through the
Okay.
state. Painting the old town hall, $25,000 is a good estimate to do the entire exterior of the building, and proposing to take this out of the unassigned fund balance, so there would be no tax impact. The plow truck purchase, again, $100,000, taking from the unassigned fund balance and no tax impact. Building Systems Trust Fund, $50,000. This is going to replenish the fund because we know that the Talon Hall is going to be $40,000 something dollars. And no tax impact, take from the unassigned fund balance. Same with the technology communication equipment, putting the $25,000 back in, which we just authorized to come out to address the server array, the storage facility. And then we have the non-binding vote on the community center design. We also have the petition article, which still I haven't typed in, and that's to address the elderly exemptions.
So thus far, we've only received one.
One petition.
It's a
I tried,
speculation
the
out there.
default budget is not published either. I jumped
Okay.
ahead.
Let's open it up. And
Do we have any other questions on the proposed warrant articles? All right, so next will be the 2020 default budget. Mr. Brown.
It's not visible.
Yes, we're closed.
Well, I learned something. Go
Yeah, we're
back to the
moving.
agenda.
Down to the wire today, doing this stuff.
Oh, I got it. All of a sudden.
No, we're just sharing it now.
I hit the reverse button, like Kevin says.
Hold on.
Oh,
Don't break it.
I just got the year-end encumbrance.
It's all right.
It just came in.
Just splash
Now that we're done.
So did I.
I know, huh? It's a
He's the
groove.
last to know. He's still not working.
No, I'm going back down to the default.
Come on, Mr. Google.
Well, that's probably why it doesn't want to work. It is.
Who's seeing it?
I have it.
I am.
Default, yeah.
got it.
Nope.
There we go.
Why you're slow?
Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
your help.
I'll cuddle up to
Right.
Brent.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, here we're here.
We're not gonna,
No, we don't have to hold hands. I'm just gonna-
no, I was saying go through, we don't need to go through line by line. do you?
I'm not going to go line
Okay.
by line, but I encourage you all to take a look at it. What we've done, Karen and I have gone through line by line, had good discussions about, the state law and what is the interpretation of default budget. So we remain pretty consistent that default budget is what was approved last year, and plus or minus any one-time expenditures. So for example, in the police department, last year they had 2 cruisers. And we don't carry 2 cruisers in 2020, we backed that 1 cruiser out. Any of the union contract driven, benefit costs, those are all calculated in as an increase. And any of the, you'll see that our non-union employees, if they receive a wage increase, it's actually included as an increase, because we believe that the amount that's carried in the personnel department, the $15,000 annual allotment for performance review, that is a default number. That number is generic, and then it's dispersed amongst all the employees. Any software contracts, those are, even though we have a multi-year contract, they've not been ratified by town meeting, by town voters. So whatever was approved last year is what's in default.
Okay.
What are some other examples? There's so many different examples that actually, any of the fuel products, electric, any of that, even though there's a rate increase or an increase, whatever, it's only what was approved last year for those lines. So go through it. It's always good to have some people go through this and, ask questions. And then we'll need to be taking action on it next Monday night. But as I said, as of right now, the default budget would represent $7,050,661.
I'm really at a loss to figure how we got down to 7,050,000 from, I'm sorry, got it,
It went up.
Like,
It went
got
up.
it.
Yep.
got it, sorry. I'm at a loss, all right. Okay, all right.
Okay. Anybody have any input or questions? Want to take some time and review it and bring up anything over the next week before we act on it next Monday evening?
Yeah, when I get it, I'll review it.
Okay.
I'll send you a special link.
Bob, you want me to send
I'll
it to
spend you. I will
John
send
Brunel told me to get this computer.
you-
Cut his budget.
You know what, though? I will
How about
send
paying your
you
bill, though?
Did I?
What bill?
an email link.
Oh,
There's no bill with this.
all right.
Send an email link. And that way they'll have it. Email it to them.
Ron's telling me to do this and that.
To go through the site.
So the next item we have is the administrator report. Mr. Brown.
Okay, thank you.
TA report.
Hey, it came.
Did you just get the email?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just shared it, yeah.
Well, maybe your computer likes me better.
I only have one item to discuss this evening. Was wondering if the board, we're talking about scheduling our annual Christmas party. And preliminary right now as staff, we're talking about the idea of having it at noon on Christmas Eve. It's a very slow time here at the office. And was wondering if the board would allow us to schedule that and that we could close the office at noon Christmas Eve, have our party, and just enjoy the rest of the day. It's always difficult when we have our Christmas party. We remain open, and when customers come in, some people miss the whole party, and or people have to get up and leave and come. But the selectmen would be invited and encouraged to attend. We're just going to do takeout Chinese.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the administrative request.
We have a motion by Mr. Lemire,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Schaefer. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All those abstained? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much on behalf of the staff.
You're most welcome. Thank you for all you guys do for us. Next, we have the selectmen reports. Mr. Lynch.
I went to the planning board meeting last week. They had a compliance hearing from Mel that was postponed to another date set. And that was about it. It was pretty quiet.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schaefer.
I missed the last Recreation Commission meeting, but we have another one tomorrow night, and I'll be there.
From Conservation Committee, we met last week, but I really don't have anything to report. Mr. Lemire.
Heritage Committee met, and we had our first demolition permit that we reviewed, and the committee is going to be allowed to take pictures inside and out of the house that's being demolished. There's a second permit that was pulled, and the committee, I believe, will be meeting tomorrow night to discuss that.
Thank you. Mr. Leary.
Budget season, full swing. Start on the school budget Thursday night. We'll start voting on it. I think the town comes in the next week.
Yeah, next Thursday.
You got last Thursday off, I saw.
Yeah, we did. I don't know why, but we did.
Seeing there were no items removed from consent, we had no other business. Our next meeting will be Monday, December 16th. We do have two other items on the agenda this evening, and they are non-public sessions. The first is under RSA 91A:32B, employee hiring. And the second one is under RSA 91-A:3, 2A, employee compensation. Do we have a motion to go into non-public?
Well, before we do, just for the people out there that we got hit with two pretty good storms. And Troy and I were discussing it. There was some angry people, but just have some patience. We have a interim road agent who's filling in the shoes of Jack, and just let's give him a chance to do his thing. They work as hard as they can. They did a lot of hours. I think they're doing the best they can. I mean, as long as they're not being rude with people and stuff, then let's just give them a break.
And also, they had some equipment breakdowns. They had some personnel
I saw two
injuries
trucks.
and 24 inches of snow in a matter of 48 hours.
Yeah.
They deserve a break.
They do. I mean, look how
Because they were-
perfect wave one was. The first
Right.
wave of the snow, I mean.
We were
there was
discussing
a lot of
that.
roads
Troy
there.
and I talked about
Right.
that.
You know,
Really well. The second wave was,
They had
Yep.
mechanicals, they had health issues.
right, right.
Yeah, so,
Well, thank you for
Yep.
bringing that up.
thanks, Bob, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, so a motion to go into non-public,
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
moved by Mr. Lemare,
Second.
second by Mr. Schaefer, roll call, Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Mr.
Yes.
Schaefer? I'm yes. Mr.
Yes.
Lemire?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Aye.
We're now in non-public. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant evening.